Today on Southern Keto, I want to show you 3 of my favorite keto dessert recipes. They have less than 4 ingredients, they're really quick to make, and they're absolutely delicious. The first one we're going to do is keto clusters. And if you've ever had the keto clusters from Aldi, you know they're awesome. I've just simplified the ingredients and cut a few of them to make it a lot quicker and easier. The next one we're going to do is my keto fluff recipe. It's a pineapple pudding whip recipe that's awesome on its own or to top things like my keto pie. And make sure you stick around to the end because you do not want to miss how I make quick and easy Rice Krispie treats. So if you like quick and easy desserts that you don't have to bake, you're in the right place. We'll get into it right after this. So there's a lot of dessert recipes out there, but the problem is a lot of them take so much time, effort, and a ton of ingredients. So I wanted to put this together for you so you'd see how easy it can be to make something that's going to satisfy your sweet tooth, use minimal ingredients, and be quick and easy at the same time. Let's get into this first one, my keto clusters. The first thing you're going to need for these keto clusters is some unsweetened coconut. Now I would recommend flakes, but if all you have is chips, use those, just shred them up, and you're going to need a cup of them, whichever ones you use. The next thing you're going to need is some butter. You'll need 3 tablespoons of it and get the best kinds you can find. The next thing you're going to need is some unsweetened chocolate chips. Now this is a 9-ounce bag I'm using here. I like the Lily's, or you can get the other brand that's sugar-free at Walmart that I showed you in one of my other videos. The next thing you're going to need is a cup of mixed nuts. Now, you could use pecans, you could use peanuts, you can use whatever you like. And if you do not do nuts, you can also use sunflower seeds, chia seeds, hemp hearts, whatever you want. Now there is one additional ingredient you could add. Now that's going to make it 5 ingredients, but sometimes we'll add a little bit of almond butter or peanut butter to it. And if you do buy peanut butter, make sure you look at the ingredients and it's just peanuts and salt. For some reason, those manufacturers love to throw seed oils in there and you don't need it. Now, if you're using the coconut chips, just go ahead and give it a quick pulse to get the consistency you want, and then start melting down your butter. Now, we're going to need to melt this butter down until it's at least halfway melted before we add those chocolate chips in there to keep it from scorching. Because you definitely don't want burned chocolate. It's not the cheapest ingredient in the world, and once you burn it, there's no turning back. You got to start all over. So just be real careful with it. Make sure you stir it constantly, and you'll be just fine. Hey, I hope y'all love my nail color. I decided to go pretty and pink this time, so hey, y'all let me know if you like that. And like I said, the main thing about this is just keep stirring it constantly. Now, if you're afraid of doing that, you could always use a double boiler. So just take another pot of water, get it boiling, and put this pot on top of it so it's not directly on the heat, but it does just fine as long as you just keep stirring. Next, if you're using nuts, just go ahead and blend them up however you want. I'm using about half peanuts and half pecans here, and that's a good blend, or use seeds or a seed blend. Anyway, it's going to come out good. Then we'll just dump them into that yellow mixing bowl because you can't make sweets without a good yellow mixing bowl. So throw it in there. And now please don't hate me for using an extra ingredient, but I'm going to put in a good couple tablespoons, maybe a little more of either peanut butter or almond butter, and you totally do not have to use this, but it does make it a little bit creamier, gives it a great texture, so just use it if you want. If not, hey, you ain't gonna hurt my feelings. Then just pour your coconut right in there, and that's about a cup of coconut. Put it on the nuts, and then look at that beautiful chocolate. Just pour that all over it. Hey, and I'm telling you right now, it's everything that I could do to not grab a spoon and just dig in just like that. But hey, I'm gonna exercise my patience. I've been working on it, and so, you know, at some point, maybe I'll be fully reformed. We'll see. Anyway, give it a good mix, get all the ingredients fully incorporated in there, and we'll move on to the next step. But before you do, it's time to evaluate it. If you want it a little nuttier, like me, or a little seedier, then it's time to add a little bit more in. That's up to you. Whatever texture you use is going to be fine. But if you like more chocolate or if you like more seeds or nuts, the decision is yours. And once you got it the way that you like it, it's time to get a parchment paper lined baking sheet And you're just gonna drop these spoonful at a time, well, a big spoonful at a time, right on that parchment paper. You don't need to spray that parchment paper or anything. Once these cool down, because we're gonna take them to the fridge in a minute, once they cool, they're gonna come off there just fine. And once you've got them all dropped onto that parchment paper, just take them to the fridge, put them in there for at least 30 minutes. You want that chocolate to set up real nice, or as long as you can stand it before you just have to get in there. I mean, if it's not set, you could eat it with a spoon if you wanted to. You ain't gonna hurt my feelings. And this is what they look like when they're done. And if you like them a little softer, just let them sit out for about 5 minutes before you eat them. I mean, those are absolutely delicious. But if you want something a little bit creamier, let's look at this pudding whip. Now, it's got pineapple juice in it, which you can take out if you don't want the carbs. But per serving, it's not really a whole lot of carbs in there. But if you just don't like the sugar at all, you can take it out, either add some pineapple extract in. You could even add maple extract or whatever kind of flavor you want to flavor this with. Strawberry would be great, chocolate would be great as well. So let's take a look at how I make this pudding whip. So now for this pineapple pudding whip, or pineapple fluff, or whatever you want to call it, you want to use 3/4 of a cup of heavy cream. I like pudding whip because it comes out almost the consistency of a pudding once you're done. Then you're going to need some cream cheese. Now this is a 2-pack, and you are going to need the 2-pack for this.
We got to start making changes. Learn to see me as a brother instead of two distant strangers.
Whoa, what happened? Not that 2-pack, this 2-pack. You're going to use both 8-ounce packages in this pudding whip. Now I know this is going to be a little controversial, but I'm going to use a 6-ounce can of pineapple juice. Now that has 24 grams of carbs in it. So it's very important if you do use this, there's 8 servings in here, and that adds 3 carbs to this. So if you don't want that, leave it out. You can totally use a flavor extract. You could use vanilla extract, you could use chocolate, you could use whatever to cut those carbs out. And if you eliminate the pineapple juice, double this 1/2 cup of Magic Baker that I'm going to put in there. So if you don't use the pineapple juice, just use a cup of this and whatever extract you want. And the first thing I got to do is get that yellow bowl, because everybody knows dessert just don't taste as good without that. And I'm going to put the cream cheese in there. Just make sure your cream cheese is softened before you start, just so it'll mix up a little bit better. I'm going to get out my hand mixer, and I'm going to start mixing up all this creamy deliciousness. Now once you got all that whipped pretty good, then go ahead and add your sweetener in and whip it real good. Now once you get those little lines going on like that, it's time to go in with whatever liquid you're going to use. So if you're going to use the pineapple juice, just go right in there with it. I've also heard there's a no sugar pineapple juice that they've come out with. I'm just not sure of the ingredients, so just do either one at your own discretion. And then once you got all that mixed in real good, it's time to go in with your heavy cream. And then one more time, we're going to mix this up proper. Now, if you love keto desserts and you don't want to miss another one, make sure you hit subscribe down there, click the bell beside it, and anytime I do a keto dessert recipe, you'll know about it. Now it's time to give it a little taste, and if you think it needs more sweetener, then add some more sweetener in there. Make sure you taste it before you serve it. And if it ain't smoking like that, that means you did something wrong. And now it's time just to mix it up until it gets to the consistency that you like. Once it starts making those cool little designs like that, you're almost there. So at that point, you can just turn your mixer off and kind of check the texture of it and the consistency and make sure that's what you want. I mean, look at that. Oh man, it's gonna be some good stuff right there. Now you could go ahead and serve it right now if you want to, but what I like to do is put it in the fridge for as long as I can stand it. It tightens up a little more, and that's how it develops that nice pudding-like consistency that is absolutely great. And why I put it on a plate?
I really have no clue. I would definitely recommend serving it in a bowl if you're gonna eat it by itself, or just use it to top your favorite keto pie or keto cake with. I mean, that looks pretty good right there, but it looks even better in a bowl like this, topped with some fresh, beautiful blueberries.
So I hope you enjoy that one. That one's probably the fastest of all of them to put together if you got a sweet tooth, like I do. Now last but certainly not least are these Rice Krispie treats. Now y'all have told me that you'd like to see some of the attempts that I make when I'm trying to put this stuff together. So I'm gonna show you 2 different ways that I did it. And that way you can see exactly how much marshmallow you're gonna need for the consistency that you want. And then I'll share the perfect recipe after you see the trial and error.
Now don't tune out right here, but the first thing you're gonna need is pork rinds. And don't worry, it's not gonna taste like pork rinds. I'm using chocolate and regular in this recipe, and I'll show you how you use them in just a minute. The next thing you're gonna need is some butter, and don't worry, I'm gonna put the recipe down in the description so that you can follow along with my final recipe. You're gonna need some Max Mellows. Now I found these at Walmart, and let me know down in the comments if you want me to try to make my own marshmallows, because these are a little bit expensive, and I haven't ever tried to make marshmallows, but I'd sure give it a shot. These ingredients are not terrible, but I think I can make it a lot cleaner myself. Now, I normally use regular Sam's pork rinds like this, but now, unless you want a smoky flavor to your Rice Krispie treats, I would not use these. It's got smoke flavor. So what I ended up using are these plain pork rinds. You can find your own. I got these up in the mountains, but they have them all over the place. The first thing you need to do is just start crumbling up your pork rinds and make them as small as you want. You could crumble them up to Rice Krispie size if you want to. You could probably chop them if you want, but I found it was pretty easy just to do it like this. Just use my hands and break them up. Now in my final recipe, I did break them up smaller than that, and I did use a knife and chop them just a little bit, but you don't want a whole lot of crumbs, but some are fine. And these actually came out really, really good being this size as well. Now you're not gonna add your pork rinds right into the Rice Krispie treats like that. We're gonna preheat the oven to 350, and we're gonna cook these pork rinds just a little bit. And I'm gonna use some butter in here. I used 4 tablespoons of butter to mix in with the pork rinds to cook them up. So I'm just gonna take it, throw it in a mug like that, and go right into the microwave with it, and put it in for about 20 seconds or until it starts popping real good. And once all that butter is melted, I'm just gonna pour it right over the top of all these pork rinds, because we're gonna bake these in the oven for a few minutes, get them really nice and crispy, and that's what's gonna make the Rice Krispie part of the Rice Krispie treats. And I got a parchment paper lined baking sheet here. I'm just spraying it down with a little bit of olive oil, or you can use avocado oil, either way. And then just spread these pork rinds, whether you use chocolate or regular, out real good. And I'm gonna throw them in the oven for 5 minutes. That's all it takes. Don't do it for longer or you're gonna have a big mess. Now when they come out of the oven, you're gonna notice that's about half as much as what you started with. So in my final recipe, you'll know exactly why I used the amounts that I used and why they come out a whole lot better than these did. But hey, y'all told me you wanted to see some of the fail stuff, so there you go. And now it's time to start preparing those marshmallows. So I'm gonna take 2 tablespoons of butter and I'm gonna throw it in a pot. We're gonna start heating that up. And just like the chocolate in the other recipe, you wanna wait till this is about halfway melted before you add the chocolate in. In the meantime, this is a 7x7 glass dish, and I'm gonna put some butter on there so it doesn't stick. And once this is melted down, about halfway, we'll go in with those marshmallows. Now these things are really, really good. They give it a great texture, but one thing's for sure, you gotta constantly stir these things. Do not let them sit there. They'll burn, and you'll ruin those awesome keto marshmallows. Once that's all melted, just pour it right on the top of all those pork rinds, and then immediately start stirring that up. Now do you see how sticky these are? So this is not the final recipe, but you'll see this is how you experiment to figure out what's going to work and what doesn't. So I'm going to pour them right in there. And actually, for this batch, this became like my base. And it came out really good because the other batch of the plain ones that I'm going to put on top came out really great. And I'm going to press them down right onto this, and it's going to be delicious. So just spread this out as good as you can with a spatula or a wooden spoon or whatever. And then I'm just going to take a piece of parchment paper that I had greased with butter on the other side and use that to press it down because it won't stick to this. And this is a really handy thing to do when you're making your Rice Krispie treats. Now for the plain pork rinds, I used about 5 cups to begin with. Now obviously these shrink down, so I'll put the perfect amounts for you down in the description so that you can make them and they'll come out perfect. But this, hey, it was an experiment. So again, I used that same 4 tablespoons of butter in there. And then I added 4 more. And then I went ahead and just used the whole stick. And I threw it in the microwave and melted it down too. Pour it over the top just like we did the others. And again, give it a real good stir. Make sure that butter is fully incorporated on there. Pour it onto a nice baking sheet. And then we're going to go right into the oven for 5 more minutes, just like the other batch. And this is how it looks when it's done. So a little too much butter on that one. This is how you experiment. So then I'll just melt down the butter and add in that whole pack of marshmallows. I'm telling you, these things are really good. You're gonna love them. Stir them up, get that nice marshmallow fluff consistency after they melted down, and then pour them right over the top of those pork rinds that we baked in the oven. Give them a great stir, and you can see from this, it's not as stringy as the other is. So this is a little better consistency, but I'm gonna show you my final recipe down in the description, and I hate that I can't show you the finished product, but when I went to edit this video, I discovered that I had deleted all the footage that I shot for the final. So if you've tried my recipes before, you know you'll be able to trust that recipe. I really wish I could show it to you, but I just didn't have time to make them again. But I'm gonna press those down on top. So that's another layer, and they came out fine just like this, but I'm telling you, my final recipe, you're really gonna love. And then you just want to take a butter knife or a regular knife and just run it all the way around the edges, because although we did butter this, you want to make sure that they come out in nice clean pieces out of this 7x7 glass container. You could use an 8x8 too, but it's just going to be a little thinner, and I think this is a real good size for it. And then you can just cut them up and serve them however you like them. They are absolutely delicious. You're really going to love them. Here's the other side with that chocolate layer. You can make the whole thing with the chocolate if you want. Just find you some clean pork rinds and do it. So if you thought you couldn't have Rice Krispie treats anymore on your keto diet, you would be wrong. And look at the way these pull apart. The final recipe is even better. Make sure you check that out down in the description.
Please let me know which one of these you're gonna make first, and let me know how they come out. I love seeing the pictures. I love the likes and the shares. I love all your comments. I read each and every one. And if you want to support my channel, head down to the description. There's a couple ways to do it. I'm going to put a couple more dessert recipes over there I think you're going to like. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.